Good afternoon, grade 9s. I hope you're all well. Yeah, it's a Friday afternoon, and luckily the weekend is lying ahead. So, as normally, let's start by saying hello to each other. So, quickly again, I will give you a minute or two in the chat group so we can greet each other. Remember also when we're going to start with the lesson that we stop chatting in the group, in the chat group, unless you have a question that is about the work that we are busy with. Then also just again, if there are new people maybe entering today, there on the first slideshow, you will see my details, my name, email address, and cell number. So if you need anything, any questions, then you're more than welcome to contact me. And then you will also see our topic for today there, and that is going to be a new journal. It's the Creditors Journal, the CJ is the abbreviation there. Right. Okay, so guys, so we're going to start now with our lesson. As I said, we're going to start doing a new journal today. So basically, it is now your fourth journal, and that is going to be the Creditors Journal, the CJ. Now, what you will see in front of you is that I have basically put a summary of the journals that you know by now. So if we look at it, then you will see there on the left-hand side, we've got the CRJ, that one you have done in grade 8. It is the Cash Receipts Journal. What is this journal all about? It's about money that you received in your business, and you have two source documents involved there, and that will be your receipt and the cash register roll, and we use the abbreviation CRR for that. Then on the right-hand side, you also have done in grade 8 the CPJ, that is the Cash Payments Journal. What is this journal all about? It's about money that is paid, like you pay the municipality, the water and electricity bill, and there's only one source document there, and that is the check counter form. Then what we have done the past 2 days was the Debtors Journal, the DJ, and what type of transactions will you enter in that journal? That is credit sales. Okay, what do I mean with that? That means you sell goods on credit, and we've said that the source document there is an invoice. Now, on the right-hand side, you will see there is another journal, and it is the CJ, the Creditors Journal. Now, what type of transactions will you write in the Creditors Journal? And it will be credit purchases. Sorry, this is a spelling mistake, I see. Credit purchases. So what do I mean with credit purchases? That you as the business are purchasing goods from somebody else on credit. So you still need to pay for those goods. So before we continue, just look at the type of transactions that you need to enter in the DJ, and then you look at the CJ. Both of them are credit transactions. In the Debtors Journal, it's going to be credit sales, and in the Creditors Journal, it's going to be credit purchases. And then I think you will notice there that it's also with the Creditors Journal, you're also going to work with an invoice as your source document. All right, so now The two new journals that you're going to learn now in grade 9 is the Debtors Journal and the Creditors Journal. Okay? Now, why do I summarize these 4 journals for you? Today, yes, we're still just going to concentrate on the Creditors Journal. But, like in next week or so, what is going to happen? Then I'm going to start giving you combined exercises. What do I mean with combined exercises? Then I'm going to give you a lot of transactions. And those transactions are going to be mixed, meaning that you read a transaction and then you must understand what's going on in the transaction, and then you need to decide, right, this transaction must go to the CRJ, for instance. Then you read the next transaction, you need to understand the transaction, and then you need to decide, let's say that transaction should go to the Creditors Journal, for instance. And that is why I summarize it here so you can understand what type of transaction you need to enter in each journal and what is the source document involved with each journal. Source document is a very important key thing here, because if you don't understand really the transaction, what you read, then, for instance, it is saying there, issue a receipt. If you just see the word receipt, immediately then you will know it must go to the CRJ. Or if it's going to say an invoice was issued, then at least you're going to know it's going to be between the Debtors Journal or the Creditors Journal. But then you need to look more and decide, is it about credit sales or credit purchases? So that is why this summarizing of journals is very important here. All right, but as I said, remember guys, we're going to concentrate now only on the Creditors Journal, so it's about credit purchases, and an invoice is going to be your source document. Then let's look at the format of the Creditors Journal. Okay, there you see a lot of columns there. Let's just again work through the different columns and then we will start looking at some examples. So the first column is your document number column. So what you're going to enter there is the source document, and the source document that you have for the Creditors Journal is the invoice. So every time it will be I for invoice and the number. Day is the day on which the transaction is happening, like on the 3rd. Then with details or creditor, you're going to look out for a name. And in this case, it will be a name of a business. Then you will see you have a creditors control column. Now, every time the amount will be in creditors control and for what it is going to be. So actually, if you think back to last year when you have done the CPJ, the cash payments journal, then normally your first column was bank, and every time the amount was written in bank and then what it was. So here it's every time the amount is going to be in creditors control and for what it is. So let's say it was 5,000 Rand for stationery, then you're going to write 5,000 Rand in creditors control and 5,000 Rand with stationery. If there is not a column at the top for whatever the transaction is all about, then you still take it to sundry accounts as you know it. Okay, but this is just an idea to give you an idea of how the format of the Creditors Journal is going to look like, and we're going to look at some examples. But before we're going to look at the examples, just again, what is the function of the CJ, the Creditors Journal? It's about credit purchases. What is your source document involved? An invoice. Right, so there I'm going to give you a few transactions. Let's look, there's one on the 2nd, on the 8th, the 10th, and the 15th. And we're going to look at those transactions and how you're going to write them into the Creditors Journal. Don't look regarding the entering of it. Let's take the first transaction that is on the 2nd. Let's read through it and then we first check what type of info is in that transaction. So on the second, stock was purchased on credit from Adam suppliers for 2,000 Rand and they issue an invoice 001. Okay, so again, we've got the date, the second. We can see here it was purchased on credit, so it's about credit purchases. We do have a name of a business, Adam Suppliers. We've got the amount 2,000 Rand. We know it is for stock trading stock, one and the same thing. And an invoice was issued and they give us the number invoice 001. So let's just read it and then we will look at the entering of it. All right, stock was purchased on credit from Adam Suppliers for 2,000 Rand, issue invoice 001. Before we continue, I just see there's somebody asking, so it's more like the CPJ and the CRJ, unlike the Debtors Journal. You're correct, your Creditors Journal looks basically almost the same like the CPJ, except that the bank column is now the creditors control column. That is mostly your big change. And with CPJ, you worked with the checks, and now you're working with invoices. But yes, it almost looks like the CPJ, unlike the Debtors Journal or something else. Okay. Right, so look at the entering of the transaction on the second. Document number, you start with invoice 001 and you use the I for invoice. Then with creditor, you got the name of the business, Adam Suppliers. The amount, 2,000 Rand. You're going to write in creditors control, and for what it is, it was for stock, or the correct name of the account is trading stock. So remember stock, trading stock, or sometimes they will say goods, and that also falls under trading stock. That is one and the same thing. Next transaction on the 8th, let's just first read the transaction. Repairs was done to a vehicle on credit for 500 Rand to ABC Vehicles, issue an invoice. So let's just first look what is the information that we have in the transaction. So we do have the date, the 8th. It was repairs done to a vehicle for 500 Rand. We've got the name of the business, ABC Vehicles, and we know it's an invoice. Getting to the invoice, remember what will they do? They will always, with the first transaction, give you an invoice number, and you need to continue with the next invoice number. So if we look at the entry, then we will see it's going to be now invoice 002, because as I said, they will always give in the first transaction the invoice number, and you automatically need to continue with the next number. And that is on the 8th. Then with creditor, we've got the name of the business, ABC Vehicles. The amount is 500 Rand. 500 Rand will go to creditors control. It is for repairs. Now you will see, for instance, there's not a repairs column at the top, so therefore it will go to sundry accounts. You write the amount 500 Rand and you say for what is it? It is for repairs. The next transaction is on the 10th. Purchased equipment on credit from Lulu Traders for 30,000 Rand and issue an invoice. So again, let's look at the information. So we've got the date, the 10th. We know it's for equipment. Lulu Traders is the name of the business. 30,000 is the amount, and there was an invoice. So you continue with your next invoice number. So it's invoice 003 on the 10th. Creditor is the name of the business, Lulu Traders. 30,000 is your amount. And you write the amount in creditors control. And for what is it? It is for equipment. There's not a column at the top for equipment, so it goes to sundry accounts. So I think you can notice by now, every time the amount must be in creditors control and for what it is. Like on the second, it was creditors control and trading stock. On the 8th, it was creditors control and for repairs. On the 10th, creditors control and for equipment. Then on the 15th, stationery purchases on credit from Makro, 500 Rand. So you're going to continue with the next invoice number. So it's now going to be invoice 004. On the 15th, we've got the name of the business Makro. The amount is 500 Rand in creditors control and in stationery because it was stationery that was purchased on credit. That's good. We're going to look at more examples now in the next slideshow. But before we do that, let's just have quickly a recap of some important things of the Creditors Journal. So if we look at these entries that was made, the first column is your document number column. So every time it's going to be invoice, you're going to use an I for invoice and you number it. Now, normally they will give you the first number, you automatically go on then with the next numbers. Day, right, is the day on which the transaction happens. Creditor, or sometimes they will put the word details there, that will be the name of the business from the transaction. Then your amount, every time the amount will be in creditors control and for what it is. Like again on the second, it was for creditors control and trading stock. Right, before I continue, is there any questions? You can put a question in the chat box. Right, nothing so far. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 more examples for today. So at the top, I just said they complete the Creditors Journal, the CJ. Then there are 3 transactions on the 3rd, the 5th, and the 10th. And then I have entered them into the Creditors Journal. Let's start with the one on the 3rd. It is saying they purchase stationery on credit from PNA for 500 Rand, issue an invoice. Let's first look at the information that we have. We've got the date, the 3rd. We know it's for stationery. We know that it was purchased from PNA, so that's the name of the business. The amount, 500 Rand. And they say there's an invoice. Okay. I didn't mention a number here, but you will see I've put it in the Creditors Journal as invoice number 1. So when we enter it with document number, invoice I-1, on the 3rd, details is the name of the business, PNA. 500 Rand is the amount. 500 Rand will go to creditors control. It's for stationery. There's not a stationery column at the top, so you take it to sundry accounts. Next transaction on the 5th, let's first read. Repairs to a vehicle was done and an invoice was issued to ABC Motors for 2,000 Rand. So we've got a date. We know it is for repairs. We know there was an invoice involved, 2,000 Rand to ABC Motors. So let's look at the entry. Right, we're going to continue now with the next invoice number. So it's going to be invoice number 2. It's on the 5th. With details or creditor, we have the name of the business. And it is ABC Motors. 2,000 Rand will go to creditors control. It was for repairs. There's not a repairs column at the top. So we take it to sundry accounts. We write the amount in 2,000 Rand and we say for what is it? It is for repairs. And then on the 10th, the transaction is saying there, stock was purchased on credit from LNA traders, 5,200 Rand. So let's look at the information we have. We've got the date, the 10th. We know it is for stock. And remember, stock, trading stock, goods, all those things are the same things. We've got the name of a business, LNA Traders. 5,200 Rand is the amount. So let's look how it was entered into the CJ. Next invoice number with document number, it is invoice number 3. On the 10th, name of the business is LNA Traders. 5,200 Rand goes with creditors control. And it was for trading stock. So then you will write it into the trading stock column because there is a column for that. Okay. Let's see, what is Onka asking? Onka Betsy is asking, does the format stay constant? For instance, the CPJ varies by the type of business, whether it is service or goods trading. So will the column stay the same? Okay. The columns here at the top. Of course, I'm talking specifically about the amount columns. Creditors control will always be your first column. Then the rest of the columns will also depend on what information in the activity is going to be. So you need, normally they will give you the headings with the columns. So the names here or the headings will already be there. So you just check every time. Let's say, for instance, there was not a trading stock column, but there was a stock transaction. Then you just put it in with sundry accounts. Like on the 3rd, for instance, there was not a stationary column, so you added it with sundry accounts. But let's say there was a stationary column, then you should have just written the 500 Rand in that particular column. So every time you just have to check what headings is at the top with the different columns. Right, one more thing. Okay, I haven't done it, but I think by now you actually should know this. What do you do at the end with all journals? You add all the columns, meaning you're going to take creditors control. You're going to add those 3 amounts to get a total at the bottom. The same with trading stock. Okay, there's only one total, so you're just going to rewrite the 5,200 Rand. Sundry accounts, if you add up those 2 amounts, that will give you 2,500. Then you write the total at the bottom. Why the totals at the bottom? Sometime, maybe a little bit later this year, we're going to move to the next step in the accounting cycle. That is going to be about the general ledger. And then you're going to need those totals to do the general ledger. All right. Basically, that is today the new journal. And I think you can see now the more we're going to start doing it, the quicker we move through it, because you are supposed to understand now the basics of it. But I quickly want to go back to the beginning of the slideshows now and revise what we have for today. Right. The summary of the journals. So again, after we have done now today the new journal, the CJ, let's look at it. Okay, as I said in grade 8, you have done the CRJ and the CPJ. Basically, the CRJ was about money received and the CPJ about money paid. With the CRJ, your source documents was receipt and cash register roll. With the CPJ, it was the check counter form. Now, this year, we've added 2 more journals, the Debtors Journal and the Creditors Journal. The Debtors Journal is all about credit sales. That means you as a business is selling on credit, and an invoice is the source document. And then the other journal is the CJ, the Creditors Journal, and that is all about credit purchases. That means you as a business is purchasing things on credit, so you still need to pay for those things. And another invoice is the source document there. Then we have looked basically at the format of the CJ, the Creditors Journal, and we said you're going to have the document number, day, details or creditor, that is the name of the business, always creditors control, and the rest of the columns will be different from activity to activity, but you will always end off with the sundry accounts. Then we have started to look at some examples, but if you look at the completed Creditors Journal, I'm going to highlight a few things. The first column is the document number column. There you have an invoice as your source document. So every time it will be an I for invoice and whatever the number is going to be. Remember, normally with the first transaction, they will give the first invoice number and you automatically need to continue with the next number. Day is the day on which the transaction happened. Creditor or details, you look out for a name of a business in the transaction. Then the amount columns, every time with every transaction, you're going to write the amount in creditors control and for what it is. For instance, on the 2nd, it was creditors control and trading stock. On the 8th, it was creditors control and repairs, but there was not a repairs column at the top, therefore you have taken it to sundry accounts. And then if we look at this one, same thing, but just remember here what I've said, you need to add up the columns still. So creditors control, you need to add it up to get the total at the bottom. The same you do with trading stock and the same you do with your sundry accounts. So right, I hope you've got a pen and paper ready now. If not, run quickly. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to be ready. I'm going to give you a transaction, okay, out of my head. So I'm just going to mention a transaction, so you need to listen. And then I want you to enter it on that piece of paper, like if it is the Creditors Journal. Okay, so I'm going to wait a minute before I'm going to give you the transaction. So if you maybe quickly want to draw yourself a column or so, then you're more than welcome to do that. Right, so I hope you guys are ready. I'm going to stick to this slide that you have it in front of you. So you can maybe just check there for the headings of the columns. Let's keep it like the headings that you see there in front of you. So of document number, day, details, creditors, control, trading stock, and then your sundry accounts. Right, now you must listen, okay? My date is the 5th, and it is going to be invoice 001. And you purchased equipment from ABC Traders for 10,000 Rand. I'm going to repeat it. Your date is the 5th. It's invoice 001. And you purchase equipment from ABC Traders for 5,000 rand. I quickly going to type it in the correct way that it needs to follow in the chat box. So you're going to see, I'm going to say there, it's going to be invoice 001. Then I will have some space. We've said the date is the 5th. And we said it's going to be ABC Traders is the name of the business. Then we said the amount is 5,000 rand. That will go to creditors control. And then I will just put another 5,000 rand there because there's not an equipment column. And it will go then to sundry accounts. And you will write there it is for equipment. Okay. Are we going to do another one? My date is the 20th. And it's going to be now the next invoice, right? And we're going to purchase stock. For 10,000 rand. I hope I can remember now the details as well. Okay, so remember we said it's on the 20th. It's your next invoice number, and we're going to purchase stock for 10,000. And let's say you purchase the stock from Makro, for instance. You will see I'm going to type it in the same way like the previous one in the chat box. Right, so you will see there on the 20th, it is the next invoice number, so it's going to be invoice 002. I've told you it is stock that we purchased from Makro, 10,000 rand. So 10,000 rand will go to creditors control, and there is a trading stock column, so you will also add the 10,000 rand in the trading stock column. Okay, people, I'm going to give you a chance. Is there any questions that you want to ask? As I said, you're more than welcome to type the question there in the box. So I will give you quickly some time if there's any questions. Doesn't look if there's any questions, but now you must listen clearly before we're going to end off. Okay? What is going to happen on Monday? On Monday, we are going to do basically 2 exercises, but as a small test. Okay? The one will be about the debtors journal. Okay? And the other one will be about the creditors journal. So I'm not going to mix the two, okay? We're still going to keep them separate. So I'm going to give you, let's say, question 1, and then I will give you a few transactions there, and then I'm going to ask you to write those transactions into the debtors journal. And then we will go to the next questions, and then it will be question 2. I'm going to give you a few transactions, and then I'm going to ask you to complete the creditors journal. So still it's not, like I said in the beginning, combined. We will still keep it separately, but I want to test you guys to see if you understand the work that we have done so far. And on that note, although we finished up a little bit earlier, it doesn't matter. Again, I want to say it is very, very important for me that what we do, you understand. Okay, accounting, we all know, is not so easy. Okay, so and some of you really wants to continue maybe with the subject next year. So that is why we rather take it step by step, do it in slow motion, as long as you understand that is the most important part. Okay, so remember now, guys, you've got a very nice weekend where you can go and prepare yourselves, okay, for this little small test we're going to do then on Monday, the Debtors Journal and the Creditors Journal. So again, I will look out if there's any questions, but otherwise we are done for today. All righty.